Yes.
So, yeah, first of all, hello, welcome, Bala. So, shall we start, guys? Everyone is all good, I guess. Audio and the video, everything is fine.
Yeah,
Right.
I'm good.
Okay, okay, let me go ahead then. Hello, everyone. Welcome to a new episode of Corporate to Cricket podcast. And today it's a biggie. So, we
Right.
have a massive episode coming for everyone. Massive as MCG, Ahmedabad Cricket Stadium. We are crossing borders here. We are going across seas. And we have with us Mr. Bala Kamalakharan, the chairman of Iceland Cricket. Cricket lover like all of us, an entrepreneur, mentor, and yeah, loads to know about him. And today we are going to discuss everything about Iceland cricket, whatever we can cover, and also have a great conversation around the game we love. So, first of all, yeah, Bala, it's great to have you here with us on the podcast. And
Hmm.
yeah, welcome. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. I'm glad to be here. Excited to talk about the game we love, as you said.
Yeah. So,
Yep.
okay. Yeah. So, Bala, I'd also like to introduce to, like, we were having the conversation when we fixed this up, but I'd also like to introduce my co-hosts who are at the podcast. So there's Madhukar, there's
Hmm.
Vivek, and something that's
Hello.
common amongst all three of us, as is in the name. We are all working in the corporate section, but we have a passion for cricket, and yeah, hence we have this podcast going on.
Right. Very rarely do you get to do otherwise, which is be in cricket and talk about cricket. And those who are in cricket rarely get to talk about cricket because they're playing it or organizing it or doing the other things. But I can relate because I obviously have a day job because
Hmm.
Iceland cricket is one of those things that we have, being built by a number of people who are just passionate about the sport and also have the view that Iceland could become a cricket playing nation. And I know I've lived in Iceland for 18 plus years now, and what started as, I used to play cricket when I was back in India. I kind of lost touch with cricket when I moved to the US. And then when I moved to Iceland in 2006, 2007, I saw a small group of people playing. So I started playing with them. And even there, it wasn't a straight journey. I did not play from 2000, I would say maybe 2008, 2009 to maybe 2015. But in the meanwhile, there were lots of others who, kind of picked up the sport, built a little bit of organization around cricket. I think our first kind of club or the board was established a long time back, but it kind of, didn't have a lot of players. So we had to really go and scout players. But the opening up of the world to global talent has also brought talent from all over the world into Iceland. So that kind of created a momentum to build cricket in Iceland. We have 9 different cricket playing nation country members represented. Obviously, we have run a number of programs with school kids and youth and others. But the long story is that you rarely get to see a country start building the sport from scratch. So I think
Right.
in that regard, Iceland has a very unique story. And fast forward to 2024, we have 5 clubs now in Iceland. Our board is in the process of being recognized as the ultimate cricket board in Iceland by the Olympic authorities in Iceland, as cricket will become an Olympic sport. And
Hmm.
we are a member run board. That means all our officers are elected by our members. So it's not should I say, we don't decide, I don't decide to become a chairman. I have to run for office. I have to convince our members that I have a mandate and I have a vision and I have an idea to kind of build the sport. So I stood on that platform, I want to say maybe about 3 years back. And this was right when COVID was happening. And the big idea was that it's fine to play the sport locally. It's a great weekend cricket thing,
Mhm.
but in order for it to become a thing, we need to kind of involve the local people, the local schools, the sports facilities, pretty much the entire stack of Iceland. So that was the challenge, and obviously we also took a big PR and a media strategy where we wanted to create a voice. And so our Twitter and our X handle is uh,
Mhm.
is basically a very deliberate strategy that we took, and we just got lucky and fortunate because we actually have a number of cricket players and enthusiasts who live in Iceland who are also extremely funny and are able to kind of poke fun at the whole game of cricket. Because I think one
Mhm.
of the things when I took over as chairman, I was trying to remind everybody that it is still a game. It's supposed to be a game, right? It's not
Yes.
that serious. You don't have to be so serious about it. We can make fun about it, and we can actually poke at some people who take it too seriously. And I think our fan base and our growth in our fan base basically shows that resonates with the general cricket lovers, right? Because I think because the sport has become global now. I mean, for lack of a better word, I can say that it used to be played by Commonwealth countries, but it is a global
Mhm.
sport today. And when it is a global sport, you need to be global in having a perspective about how the sport has to be built, how it has to be grown, and so on and so forth. And so we kind of created that voice. We basically say, "Come on, ICC, you guys have plenty of resources. I think you need to do better to help the smaller countries to build the sport. Why not dedicate some of that resources to some of these countries that are struggling to get things going,
Mhm.
right? And we can be honest and transparent about how we're doing things, but also take stabs at some of these establishments, saying that you're not doing enough to grow the sport. It's not enough to get media rights and have plenty of money to build sports training facilities in large countries that already have all the infrastructure. And I'm not saying those things are bad. I'm just saying that a small fraction of that could be allocated towards building the sport in Iceland, or some of these different countries. By the way, Iceland is a very sports loving nation. We are a small
Mhm.
country, but that being said, people love sport here. It doesn't matter what sport it is, and there's plenty of interest and support to build the sport. But I think it is also really difficult to build the sport when we don't have kind of like a institutional support for it. There's plenty of infrastructure in Iceland. There's plenty of football pitches and sports clubs and so on and so forth, but they were all built for a different reason, right? So we had to build everything from scratch. We usually work with the sports clubs to get training facilities. Now we have three different grounds we play cricket in, and the idea would be to take one of that and make that our home, and maybe build a stadium and do all those other things that
Mhm.
cricket playing nations have to do. So those are kind of some ambitious long-term views we have. But that being said, at the grassroots level, we are starting to see more and more people want to join the sport, and I think that's very encouraging. We have over 140 players in Iceland. We have 5 clubs. We conduct about 4 tournaments: a T10, a T20, a T40, and also a six-a-side tournament. We also play an indoor tournament, actually, which is a T15 kind of a, because during the winter months we cannot play outside, so we play indoors. Even though it is really cold, we kind of play the sport even in that cold weather. We still don't allow people to wear gloves. Only wicket keepers can wear gloves, even though the temperature is like maybe
Yes.
1 or 2 degrees and it's freezing. Um, so long story short, we are kind of one of those. I don't know, canary in a coal mine kind of a story in terms
Mm.
of build the sport. But these things take time. We are also quite cognizant of the fact that it is not that easy to build all those things that we take for granted in countries where the sport has been part of the fabric. Like when I grew up, I actually there's organized cricket at all levels, right? I mean,
Mm.
from under
Exactly.
10, under 12, under 15, under 17. So all kids who are they start very early, but we need to kind of build that culture. We need to build that infrastructure. So those are the things that we're working on in Iceland to get that going. So we think that it's not a bad thing to pursue and build. Iceland can actually put up a good team, maybe given time,
Hmm.
as we've seen in the World Cup matches. I mean, who can forget the Afghanistan fairy tale story, right? I mean,
Absolutely.
amazing story of rag to riches kind of
Hmm.
players, and coming all the way, competing at the highest level, beating some of the best teams and making it to the semifinals. And it was a shame that they didn't make it all the way, but again, they've shown the way that this can be done. And so did Bangladesh before them, so did Sri Lanka
Hmm.
before them,
Yes.
and so did India before them, right? I mean, India were underdogs in the 80s when we won the World Cup for the first time. So I do believe that
Absolutely.
the I think this is what is so refreshing and democratizing about sports, right? It doesn't matter where you come from. It doesn't matter what odds were against you. But what really matters is how much work you put in. And on that day, if it is your day, you become the hero. And I think that is a very, I don't know, is a very romantic feeling to be able
Absolutely.
to live to that. And we think Iceland
Absolutely.
cricket can do the same. So can
Mm.
any other nation that we don't associate with cricket now, right? I mean, who can forget Netherlands, right? I mean, Netherlands,
Mhm.
although Netherlands actually has a long history of playing cricket and building cricket, but they were always not in the mainstream. But in the last 3 to 5 years, you've seen that they're actually competing at a very good level, and
Good luck.
I think that is also an indication that cricket has become a global sport, right?
Yeah,
So we
absolutely.
need to we need to obviously rethink how we build the sport, how we engage with fans, all that. And I think what we're doing with Iceland cricket through our social media channels is probably a good template for others to follow. So what we decided very early on is that we said, all these other things that we are doing to build the sport in Iceland takes time. But in the meanwhile, what we can do is build a fan base. We can
Hmm.
actually build a fan
Yeah.
base of people who actually
Fans.
watch. Yeah, there you go. All of you all. The reason why we are talking today is because of that fan base that we initiated 3 years back. And I mean, our fan base have been fantastic. They've supported us through many things. They are cheerleaders for us. They poke fun at us, and we poke fun at them, and that's how it is. That's how it should be. So it is a very friendly, jovial kind of a platform, and I'm thankful that social media platforms are for all the bad things that social media brings, it also brings all these good things, which is creates a platform for somebody who doesn't have a voice, and I think that's fantastic. So,
Absolutely.
so yeah, so that's kind of our story, and I'm happy to talk about anything else you guys want to talk about. I mean, obviously, I'm looking forward to today's match between India and England. I mean, I've watched all the games in the World Cup. Although some of the games, like this morning, I mean, for us it's 12:30. It's later than midnight. I didn't stay up to watch that game, so I just watched the highlights in the morning. I was
Hmm.
pretty bummed out that I think this usually happens, right? When you actually jump through a very big challenge and you make it across, you basically have this tendency to just relax. And I think that's what happened in Afghanistan. They probably just, were so high with making it to the semifinals that they probably just, they just ran out of gas.
A little
Yeah.
bit. Yeah.
And that's great, right? I think it's fine. And that also shows you that, it's a very human thing. We just have to uh, realize that these people who are actually, are, I don't know, icons, heroes, all that, end of the day, they're also human and they're doing a very difficult thing. And we need to be, I don't know, if anything, be a little bit more empathetic towards them, not, be too critical about the fact that this is actually just a game, right? It's just a game. Why are we taking it so seriously? Some days, Rohit Sharma is going to play like he did against Australia, and some days he's not going to click, and that's the nature of the game. You just have to accept that. Some days Bumrah is going to bowl like he's been bowling like crazy, but then there are days when he's going to have an off day. He's going to be belted around the ground, and that's the nature of the sport. That's what makes it fun. If it is so one-sided that you cannot lose, then we remember how dominating the Australian teams were. And I think it kind of even turns off fans, right? Because what's going to happen, what the point going there, right? It's just going to be a total crushing by Australia. It doesn't matter what the other team is, And I think, you have to hand it to the Australians. They have this very positive winning mentality. You just, it is very... very refreshing to watch. Pat Cummins, I think he's a fantastic captain. I think he's a fantastic cricketer. I think he's a great human being. But, the game has a way of humbling those people too, right?
Absolutely.
I don't have to tell you, I'm sure there are a lot of memes going around with him having an interview and somebody was asking him, who do you think are going to be the 4 teams? And he said, one is going to be Australia. And somebody asked him, who are the others? He said, doesn't matter. So, they kind of have that, attitude. And I think that's great. I think that's fantastic. And then, of course, when you have that attitude, it kind of gives others a chance to, take you on and show that the sport can, humble the ones who are even more well prepared.
Right.
Yeah,
Absolutely. With Australia,
we have
also,
experienced it. Yeah, we have experienced it firsthand actually. Who can forget the 2023 World Cup campaign that India was having, and Madhukar and I, we were there in the stands in the final, and so we experienced it firsthand.
Yeah.
So
as Bala said that it's just a sport. You can't be so much into it. It's just a game. You have good days and then bad days. Can't say these lines for us because we are so passionate. Indians in general are so passionate about cricket that we cried our heart out on that day only.
Right.
And even now we only we know how much we are prepared for this game.
I guess more nervous than excited because we know what happened last time. More nervous.
And I think, that also shows, how much the fans are engaged with, the game of cricket. And, I was just watching the press interview with Rohit before the game yesterday. And he was just saying it as he sees it. And I think it's fantastic. And he basically said the same thing, which is he says, it doesn't matter what game India plays. The pressure is always there, whether it is the finals, the semifinals, the bilateral series, it does not matter because we have, when he started playing, almost 15 years back for India.
Yeah.
And he said that when I walked in, the pressure was always there. That is never going to go away because it is because of how deeply the fans are engaged in India about what we do on the field. But I think what is maybe more refreshing to see is that I think the players are not internalizing it so much. They're actually saying, you know what, it's a sport. we're just not going to let the pressure drive us to making decisions that might, lead us down a wrong path. We should just, be free and have an open mind, and all the hard work that we have done over the years will eventually, show on the field if it is our day, right? If it is their day, it will happen. And that's what is also fun about sport, because on that day nobody knows, and I think that's what is so exciting about live sport, right? If everything is already known, then nobody would watch live sport. And if anything, more and more fans want to watch live sports. More and more fans want to be in the stadiums. After COVID, we have seen kind of a resurgence in terms of people wanting to go and be engaged in the game. And I think that is where organizations can do a better job, right? ICC and others who are organizing these games. What they should try to do is to, obviously people get many different channels to watch this, right? There are different media to watch it, but make it more easier for fans to be on the ground, right? Don't make it harder, right? That makes no sense. It just sounds ridiculously stupid thing to do. Why would you make it hard to buy a ticket to go and watch the game? Right. And I was actually looking at buying some of the tickets when the games were played in New York and others, and it was impossible. If you are not part of the clique within the ICC, there's no way you could get the tickets. By the way, I could have pulled some strings and used my influence and done somewhere to get the ticket, but I mean, it shouldn't be that hard. It should be easy, right? It should be simpler.
As a
make
fan,
it easy for fans.
In India, even when it was like World Cup finals, it was not even easy for like Indian fans to be in that stadium, be in that ground. So again, lot of quotas, lot of sanctions which are applied, and it was not really easy so that everybody could, or even maximum could be there.
Yeah, even I think those are. I just think I think I can speak for all of that, right? I think we need to have a different view moving forward if we really want the sport to really grow and engage. I mean, I think through IPL, we have seen that if you get the fans on the stadiums, guess what? It's a fantastic atmosphere. The games are enjoyable to watch. Everybody wins. I think ICC should take some lessons from that and say, okay, let's try to fill the stadiums, right? By making it easier and giving fans, by the way, build a fan base. And if there are loyal fans, kind of invite the top 100 to be there, right? I mean, how cool would that be, right? If you're a fan and you're engaged in that sport, and ICC basically said, hey, we've recognized you as a top fan because of your fan engagement. We want you to come to this game, and we're going to give you a ticket to be there. I mean, that would be a fantastic story, and that will also bring more fans into the game. And
absolutely.
Let's not forget, without the fan base, this sport is not going to grow. We need to be able to build the fan base.
Absolutely.
Yeah, fans are like integral part of any sport. Okay, so Vivek, Madhukar, let's have some. Yeah, we have some questions for you, Bala, actually, that we'd like to discuss in the podcast. Yeah, Vivek.
Sure.
You'd like to start.
Yes, so great story, Bala. I believe everybody in this planet who has some Indian association have that DNA of cricket, and that's how your passion of cricket also is reflected in. Because as you said, it takes time to build a sport in a country. And to make it at a level where ICC is recognizing it, definitely it's a story of long many years. So you have very nicely told how it was, but I would like to see how you're looking forward to associating with ICC, like leveraging, like as you said, they should help associate nations in multiple ways. So we know that coaches of India even go to Afghanistan, and there are delegates coming from Australia to work with Chinese cricket playing nations. So how are you looking up forward to the ICC and the events happening?
Right. So, I mean, end of the day, what is required to actually become recognized with ICC, the criteria are becoming more and more stringent. And I personally think that that's the wrong approach, right? I think what it should be is that it should be easier for countries to be recognized into the
Right.
ICC list. And obviously, you need to clarify. You need to have certain things in place. Like, in the first stage when we started engaging with ICC, I think it was like maybe 2018, 2019. They said, hey, you need to have 8 men's team, and you need to have 3 grounds. All organization of the clubs and all that. The finances needs to be very kosher. You need to be able to transparently show how you're running the organization. We said we're already doing all that, so it's not that difficult to do. But as we started engaging with them, the rules changed. They said, oh, by the way, you need to have 8 women's team now, and you need to have 8 youth team. And we said, I mean, come on now, you keep changing the goalpost. You said 8 men's team, and now we have 8 men's team, right? Through the 5 clubs that are A teams and B teams. So we have 10 teams, really, right? There's about 140 players. And we have 3 different grounds. If you include the indoor ground, we have 4 grounds where we play cricket, right? And we conduct the tournaments in a very transparent way. All our finances are published in, public information. Anybody can see our budget, how we fund the board, how we fund the tournaments, all of that. It's basically member-based. Members pay a membership fee to be part of the association, and then each club basically pays a tournament fee, and all that is pretty transparent. We have some sponsors. We sell merchandise. All that information is also published. None of the officers are paid. We are all volunteers in this organization. I mean, we know that that's what is needed to do this. And last but not least, we basically said, we basically fulfill 85-90% of what you're asking us to do. The women and youths program, again, it's kind of childish to think that we would be able to do that overnight, right? It just makes no sense. Although to that effect, we said, okay, we'll launch this, right? So we've actually put a date this summer, August 17th. It's our 25th anniversary since our first board was established. So we're actually having like a kind of like a cricket day. We actually play should I say T40 game. And we are planning to also, launch women cricket. Then we are now recruiting members, women to join the women squad. And, the 5 clubs will kind of become mentors of that women team. They all will contribute to help the women team, and then they will recruit players in. So we will conduct a women tournament just like we do with men's, and so on and so forth. So that's the idea that we're planning to launch. We have 3 schools that have shown interest where we will be launching training program with them. Again, these are all, really time-consuming things for us to do. When you have a all volunteer organization, it's kind of, as you said, you have a day job, you still need to do your day job, but you also need to do the job of a coach and, an administrator and all that. And again, we're not complaining, but it is difficult to manage, right?
Yes.
It is, just from a timing perspective, obviously, all of us have families, kids, we have our own other things to take care of. And then when you add a lot of these other responsibilities, it just becomes a very difficult challenge to juggle. But that's part of life. We just will have to accept that and say, okay, how do we manage this and try to solve this problem? So we're looking at clever ways to solve that. We'll solve it, I think, because we have very smart, resourceful people. We're very, very fortunate that way. To have people who are very dedicated.
I guess like once ICC also includes Twitter as a trait in their qualification thing, I think Iceland would be topping it. Even
I think we would probably I think we probably will beat a lot of the boards in that medium. But that being said, obviously it takes money, right? Obviously, it also takes money, and what we are working with is that we have some corporate sponsors. And corporate sponsors, they also have their own agenda, and we need to work with them on a lot of that. So we are obviously, doing a lot of outreach to companies that obviously fund sports like cricket and ask them to, become official sponsors of Iceland Cricket. And we are always open to anybody who wants to engage with us. We are happy to use our social media platform to give exposure to corporates. And there have been a bunch of inquiries, but usually they don't really transpire. So we continue to work with them. But it needs to come from local. But Iceland is relatively a rich country, so we think that we can, as long as we move through the channels, because this is also a very weird requirement, because the Olympic board, Iceland has a very well organized sports federation, right? It's all very well organized. They're part of the Olympic infrastructure, but we kind of are an offshoot, but we run like we are part of the Olympic authority. And they basically said, you act like a board, you work like a board, but we don't know how to integrate you into how we do things, right? So we are in that discussion. They are more or less okay with our board becoming part of the Olympic board. We need to go through some criterias and requirements and so on and so forth. And the other thing is language. Like a lot of the sports federation in Iceland is in Icelandic, right? So cricket, even that it was built by a number of expats, it is still in English, and the rules are still in English. So what we did is that we literally had to invent words in Icelandic for it to be read and understood and all that. So we've done all that. The next thing is the rules. And now with AI, we can actually solve that. We're actually partnering with a company, which I'm an investor in, that actually uses AI to build courses. So we're actually thinking about launching a course that teaches people to become umpires. By the way, this is the other pet peeve I have. So the ICC used to have an online umpire certification. So you could take an online course, you could take the test, and you could become a level 1 umpire. And they removed that. That course is no longer there. And I'm what are you doing, right? I mean, this makes no sense to me. Like,
I don't know, how is the umpiring at the international level happening after that? Everybody has seen IPL, everybody is seeing the games and the DRSs, and they won't believe that those umpires have taken courses, maybe. So I mean, this story, kudos. Yes, please.
No, I was just saying that we basically said, what, if ICC is not going to do it, we'll do it, right? So we use AI. We have built a course. We actually are going to start launching it within Iceland with all our members. Whoever is interested can take the course. And if you finish the coursework, you go through that, you basically can umpire the games that we host and run in Iceland, right? So what we're doing is that we're actually taking all the women who are now starting with us, and we're asking them to be the first set of umpires for the games, right? So they get to feel the game, see the game, watch the game as a referee, as an umpire, while they're also training and doing all the other things and getting the skills and all the other stuff that they're working on, which is a great way for us to, engage a community that has never played the sport before, right? So I think that we need to be creative. We need to come up with clever ways to, solve some of these problems. A lot of our administrators are also players, so it is very difficult for us to organize the game, play the game, and also run the tournament, right? So it is we're trying to get board members who are non-players. I still play, and I enjoy playing. So I try to. I'm slowly. Physically, I'm fine. I can play the game. I can keep up with all the younger guys. But that being said, and I'm also starting to see that somebody has to retire and do the other stuff that we need to do. So absolutely, we are requesting some of our players to, graciously retire and, become administrators so we can build the sport.
Amazing.
So,
Hearing this story, Bala, I mean, kudos to the entire BTS of how cricket is being built in a nation. People celebrate icons like Sachin, Kapil Dev, and Virat, but Now I can also realize there have been a lot of work done behind when you do not have resources, when you don't have like situations in favor of you. Amazing, like definitely. Yes, Madhukar, take on from there.
Yeah, I have one question regarding your Twitter. So we came across tweets where you guys call Iceland cricket the birthplace of cricket, you know.
Yeah.
So yeah, we are intrigued to learn like how cricket in Iceland and how's cricket in Iceland and what's the role your word is playing in it.
Sure.
Also the
So-
brains behind the amazing X
Yeah.
or Twitter
Yeah.
account.
All credit for the Twitter growth goes to our secretary, David Cook. So David Cook, who you interacted with, who wanted to be here, but he was tied up, so he couldn't make the podcast. But I think we'll be happy to talk again, and I think you should have David on. David is he's a genius when it comes to cricket. He knows he knows the game intimately. He is actually a level 2 umpire. He actually does most of the umpiring in our games, and he also is our secretary and runs the Twitter account. And he's built the persona. So the voice you see in Iceland cricket is basically his alter ego. So going back to the history of cricket, so the Icelandic nation has Iceland is one of the most literate countries in the world. So in Iceland, everybody can read and write, right? And I think one of the things that they did very well was that Icelanders moved from Norway and the mainland Europe into Iceland. And this was in the year 900-ish. But what Icelanders did well was that they actually cataloged and kept like records of all the stories from that time. So those are called the sagas. So the sagas of Iceland are kind of like a World Heritage repository of history, right? So they were written and preserved, and it is still kept in a museum. We can still see the books that they wrote in the year 900. And most Icelanders can still read it, right? That's the other part, right? Like, for example, for us, I'm from Chennai, Tamil Nadu, and if you showed me a script, maybe a Devagiri script all the way from the year 5000, there's no way I'll be able to read it. I might understand the letters, but, the language has evolved. Iceland, for their credit, have kept the language very, true to when they moved to this country. So most Icelanders can still read those sagas. And in those sagas, there are references to a sport where there was a bat and a ball that was involved. So this was written in the year 900-ish, right? So if you go back and look at actual cricket history, the English cricket history, it doesn't go that far. So we actually claim that we were the first ones to actually record a game that referred to a bat and a ball. Obviously, we didn't describe it in that much detail, but the sagas were all pretty brutal, right? In those times, justice was basically people slaughtered each other. If you basically cheated in a game, you basically got hacked. You basically got cut off. Your hand was cut off. Your head was cut off. So it was a very brutal affair. So that's how the sagas are written. They're literal. They literally wrote down, what really happened. So we use that, and the credit goes to actually Kit Harris, who wrote a book about Iceland cricket. It's called From Lords to the Fjords. This book is something that you can buy on Amazon. The Wisden publishing basically recommended as the book of the year for cricket. And so happy to send you guys references to this book. It basically jots down the history of how cricket started This kind of like how it started, where it started, and what shape it has taken up to now, right? Obviously, it's hard to write where it's going to go, but up to now, where it is at. So that is the reference you are referring to. We actively keep talking about that because we think it's unique, it's funny, but it also tells the story that history is not what everybody thinks it is.
Yeah, it's an amazing trivia, totally.
Yes, yes.
And like knowing there's a bat and there's a ball in 900-ish
900.
AD and some that year. Wow, I have a great perspective to cricket now. I have a broader perspective now.
And we also can't trust British on this. So
Right.
we are with you.
Yes, we think that the British actually learned the sport watching some of the Vikings when they were, pillaging,
Yes.
pillaging and plundering Ireland because all the women came from Ireland. So the Vikings went sailing into those countries and brought most of the women to Iceland. So we think that that's how cricket got more established in England.
Great,
Yeah.
great. And so David, we can call David the Saurav Netravalkar of Iceland cricket. I mean, he does all of the
Probably.
things, highest wicket
Probably
taker, and
he is. He is.
also good things.
So he's actually an environmental economist. He teaches in University of Iceland. He's a professor. So
Wow.
he's a PhD professor, an umpire, Twitter maven for cricket. So we are all big fans of
Yeah.
David. So
Yes, same. Which again proves my point.
I mean, a suit more and David's Iron Man probably. Like he does everything. Absolutely.
yeah.
Absolutely, yeah.
He can do everything. And by the way, he is one hell of an orthodox left arm spinner. He has the most number of wickets last season, and
Wow.
he's so he's a very, very smart bowler, and obviously the conditions work very well for him in Iceland because his loopy balls, because of our environment, it actually moves quite a bit. It drifts and moves, and we play in an artificial pitch, and that pitch is such a way that the ball actually skids faster after it is bowled. So it is, the arc of his bowling is one speed, and after it pitches, it goes 2-3 times faster. So most batsmen, you would say even some of the international level batsmen will find it difficult to play him.
Wow.
So
For sure.
The OG 360.
for every one of us, for every one of us, I guess the story began very early in our career of when we fall in love with cricket. So how is your romance with cricket? Like when
Right.
it started on the very early
So yeah,
days?
I would say the cricket started very early for me as well. I was probably maybe 9, 10 years old. This was 1983. I was born 73. I'm 50 years old. I'll be 51 this year. And I mean, I would say the World Cup was a turning point for a lot of us aspiring cricketers.
Yes.
And my dad actually he got selected to play. He went to the Vivekananda College. I don't know if you guys know Vivekananda College or not, in Chennai. But that college had a history of cricketers. So my dad had natural talent. He went and he was selected, but they asked him to do a lot of physical activity. He basically said, "I'm not doing all that." So he didn't play. It's always he always says it's a funny story. So he got selected to play. He went in. They were all standing around. So the coach came and said, "Okay, guys, you all need to run 20 rounds around the ground." My dad looked around, picked up his bag, put it on, and the coach was like, "What are you putting on?" He's like, "No, if I basically have the bag, it's more heavy to run." And he said, "Oh, great, good idea." And he said he just ran out and never came back. He said, "I'm not running 20 rounds around the ground to play cricket." So I mean, it kind of also shows the mindset, right? in the early days of cricket, fitness was not a big thing, right? You didn't have to be fit to play cricket. So when I showed some interest in cricket, so he encouraged me and said you should try it out. So I went for the under-12 selection, the Tamil Nadu Cricket Club, and I got selected to play in the under-12 Chennai City level. So that is what was my first exposure to kind of more structured coaching, nets, all that. So when I saw that, my school, we played in school tournaments, and my school, because I played well in the school, we actually made it to semifinals in one of the tournaments, and then the selectors saw that. So I got selected to play. So I played under 12 and under 15 for Tamil Nadu. I didn't play for the state. I was selected to be in the city squad. So I played, competitive cricket. So all you need to do is kind of start dating everybody. So Sachin Tendulkar was the same age as me at that time. And Sachin was playing for Mumbai, just like I was playing for Tamil Nadu. And I only say this because, so a lot of the players who played with me made it to play for India. One is Hemang Badani. I don't know if you know Hemang Badani.
Yes, absolutely.
So Hemang Badani and I played together. So we were in the under-12. We were in the under-12 squad together, and Hemang was so tiny. I was a fast bowler, and I was really tall, and I was way faster than him. And he became a left-arm spinner because he realized his physical capacity was not big enough for him to become a fast bowler. But I was a fast bowler, and I would open the bowling for the city. And so my coach, this was a time when we were all training in Chepauk, where the Chennai Super Kings home ground, and Madras Cricket Club. And so the Tamil Nadu Cricket Association was based out of the Madras Cricket Club. So we would actually train there and we would play there. And Sachin and Kambli were in Chennai. They were playing for South Zone. There was a game that was going on at that time. So my coach was like, hey, so these two kids are supposed to be really talented and we need some net bowlers. So you guys should go and bowl for them. And I was like, at that time, you didn't know anything about it. And I was like, who the hell is this guy? Why am I a net bowler to him? I could probably, show him something about what I can do as a fast bowler, right? So your ego is so big. So we went and we started bowling, and the first few balls, he kind of, checked me out. And after that, he hit me all over the place. And once I saw him batting like that, I was like, yeah, that guy is going to play for India. There's no chance I'm going to play for India. It was quite evident at that time.
You actually bowled for Sachin Tendulkar.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I did bowl for him, and the way he was timing and hitting the ball with such fluency, we all were like, wow, okay, this guy is going to... And by the way, a year later, he was selected to play for India. So he was playing in the under 15 at that time. He was 16 years old, so he actually started. He went on the first tour to Pakistan at that time. So my name to fame was that I bowled to Sachin Tendulkar, and I basically hung up my boots from playing cricket after watching him, because when you play at that level, your ambition is to go play for India and represent this country and all that. And I looked at him and I said, okay, no way in hell I'm going to play for India. This guy's going to play for India. So, but of course, I continued. I played for some of the division leagues. I played for Magnet Cricket Club, which was in the 5th division league, and I was probably one of the younger players playing at that division league. I was 15, and all the others who played in that club were like 25 to 35, 40 years old. So this was very interesting time for me to see the sport. And then I realized, there was no real career in cricket at that time. So I decided that, maybe I should hang up the boots and, focus on building a career. I got into BITS Pilani, so I moved to BITS. And I actually played for BITS. I played in the varsity level. We conducted a tournament, and I performed well. We actually there's lots of guys who went to the school in Chennai who one of the teams that came to BITS, and I scored a 50 against them in one of the matches, and they were like, "Dude, why did you give up? You should have continued on." And I was like, "Well, you don't have the same experience I do, bowling to Sachin Tendulkar, so you don't know what you're talking about. I do." So, looking back, probably was the best decision I made. There's no way in hell I would have, really been competitive. But that being said, it's all good. Of course, Sachin is a phenom. There's no way. I mean, today, all around the world, people realize how difficult it is to be so good. It's not that easy. This is a very it's a very skill. It's a craft. Right? I think this is the other thing that I like to talk about when people ask about cricket. They say, why do you guys love the sport so much? And I say, this is the only sport where chess and football are combined. Because if you don't have the mental game, your physical game won't mount to much. But if you don't have the physical game, it doesn't matter how much mental game you play. You have to have both, right? You gotta be a good strategist, and you also have to be a good technician, right? You can't be just one or the other. But in football, just because you're physical, you can still score goals, right? Single-handedly, you can score goals. But in cricket, it's impossible. You cannot do that, right? You cannot bowl, you cannot bat, you cannot field, you cannot do all the things yourself. You have to kind of raise the game by raising others around you. So it's a truly a mental sport, and that's what I enjoy about it. And once I start describing cricket this way, people are like, "Oh wow, hold on, this is pretty intense. How is now we get it?" And I say, you know what? If you really think that it is so easy, come try it out. We'll bowl to you. Try to hit the ball out of the ground, and let's see how easy that is.
Let's get on the pitch.
Yes.
Yeah,
absolutely.
It's a beautiful way to put it out. I mean, seriously,
yeah. It is a hard sport, right? It is not a trivial sport.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And like you talked about Sachin and the phenomenon and structure. And this actually helps, like if there's like the 83 World Cup was there, then there's Sachin's rise. So you can these personalities, these events. And, when we talk about Iceland cricket, so maybe these things will come up for sure. There's going to be personalities, maybe David's one who, people will be following him. You will be there. People will be looking up to you. And, but there's one thing which is great in modern cricket around the world that's going around. And I have seen Iceland, as you described earlier as well. Iceland also started this, and you have leagues and all. So let's talk about give us an idea, give us some things, a few facts about the original IPL, the Iceland Premier League.
Right. By the way, we actually got a legal notice from BCCI saying that we cannot refer to our Icelandic Premier League as IPL. So IPL is trademarked by BCCI. So we actually call it Íslenska Premier League. Íslenska is the Icelandic word, and we actually use the I with a graf, which is an Icelandic letter. So we say it's EPL. And we started playing IPL. Iceland Premier League started like maybe in the year 2015, 2016. There were only 3 teams at that time. Now we have 5. So it's just like IPL. It's a round robin. Each team plays the other twice, and then and there's a final with the top 2 teams that finish in the top of the table. And the ones who win the IPL, and we also conduct a T40 game, which is a 40-over match, and that's called the Valhalla Cup. So whoever wins the Valhalla Cup, both of the finalist winners play for the Samuel Gill Trophy. The Samuel Gill Trophy is actually one of our board members. He's a vice chairman. Sammy is the oldest member of Iceland cricket. He actually was part of the original team and the board that was formed in the year 1990 and 1989. So Sammy still plays. So we basically, immortalized him by creating a tournament in his name called the Samuel Gill Trophy. So we play that as well. So, totally now, as I mentioned, we conduct 4 tournaments and about 70, 80 matches. We used to live stream all of those matches, in the previous years. It is just that, we're starting to see that the quality is not very good with the instruments we use because the conditions in Iceland are very, like the weather is very hard. It's windy, it's rainy. We play in all that, by the way. We don't stop playing because it's raining or anything like that. But the camera and the equipment, the way that we set it up is not very conducive. So we are actually looking to upgrade to a much better streaming infrastructure. So when that happens, our fans will be the first to see it. And we have a YouTube channel, and it gives you a glimpse into, how we play and all that. So the Iceland Premier League is something that we pride ourselves on. It's a fun tournament. We have now gotten to a point where it used to be pretty one-sided because some teams were much stronger than the others. But now with all the 5 teams, every team can beat anybody else. So it has become like IPL. So it's pretty 3 games went all the way to the last ball. So so it is pretty exciting. It is pretty exciting as well. So now we just need to get the locals to actually watch and understand and get excited about what we're doing. So we're working on a lot of those things. So it is also something that we are trying to do. We've got a lot of local media coverage, but still, it's still treated as some fringe sport played by immigrants who moved to Iceland. That might be true. It takes time to change all that.
Yeah, absolutely. And maybe the change will come up because of the Iceland's Premier League, and once it is streaming and once it is out there, I mean, we for sure will be the first ones to watch. I mean, we'll be there. We'll be talking about it. Definitely.
As I said, we think that the game of cricket is global. We have seen, even with our very poor streaming, when we stream, there'll be like 500 people watching what we play.
Absolutely.
Right. So that is always going to be how we build the next, kind of, streaming has become part of sports. It is just now accessible everywhere, see anywhere. As long as you have a phone, you can watch any game anywhere, right? So we want to basically tap into that and basically offer it exclusive to our fans, right? Our fans are the reason why we exist. Obviously, we want to build the sport and do all those other things. But if our fans were not there, it wouldn't matter what we do.
Yeah, totally.
All right.
Yes, so again, I believe the next step in the same is why Mohali District Cricket is also going to tour Iceland this year in I guess earlier it was scheduled for July. Now it's for September.
Yeah. So we've had some. When you're doing something for the first time, it always takes a couple of tries.
Right.
So this is the first time cricket team is traveling from outside of the European Economic Area to come to Iceland to play cricket. So, wow. I have 2 different hats. I'm also the chairman of the Iceland-India Trade Council. So I have a more formal role with the trade, partnerships between India and Iceland. And I'm a big fan of building bridge between Iceland and India. And, we are doing that in many different ways. And I've always felt that, sport is one way where this can happen more seamlessly. Right? So we get a lot of requests for clubs who want to come and play here. I mean, in the earlier days, we used to allow the national team, or the Iceland national team, to play some of these clubs, but it was very one-sided. We would trash them, right? Like any club which would come and they would just get totally squashed by our teams. I mean, it could be because obviously we know the conditions better than them. But our players, as I said, our national team is actually quite competitive. They actually play quite good cricket. So, so we decided, once the 5 clubs were pretty competitive, we said, from now on, any club wanting to come and play us, you play the 5 clubs, right? Yeah. And so we were very happy that Mohali District Cricket Club reached out to us and said, we'd love to come to Iceland and play the 5 clubs. So we, started the process. Because you're from India, you have to apply for a Schengen visa. And there's a whole, bureaucratic mumbo jumbo around Schengen visa that, you just, I don't want to go into the details of all the intricacies of why it exists the way it exists, but it's kind of stupid. And I've made it abundantly clear to anybody who would listen that it's absolutely stupid, right? If an Icelander wants to go to India, it takes 1 day for them to get a visa. But if an Indian wants to come to Iceland, it takes 45 days. It's just ridiculous. And I have escalated this issue all the way to the president, to the finance minister, to the prime minister. So finally, last year, they have doubled the budget. They have actually increased more processing. So now visa processing from India to Iceland hopefully is faster. But as I said, when you apply for a cricket team visa, that's 16 people. And suddenly, all red flags started going all over in the processing. And that got slowed down. So they couldn't get the visa on time to come and play in July. So we suggested to them, why don't you come later once our season ends? Because we also have this problem that we have the season where all the games are already structured. So people actually plan their schedule because they all have day jobs. They're all, just playing cricket, not as professionals. So we need to accommodate their availability. So we've done that. So now in September, we'll play the Mohali when they come here. Obviously, weather and conditions permitting, because Iceland, it becomes wet and dark and all that by mid-September. So we hope that, the weather cooperates, and then we'll be able to play that. And by that time, maybe we'll have our streaming infrastructure also ready. So we can show that, we know the Mohali Cricket Club is, quite competitive. We know that they have some very good players. So I think it'll be good for our clubs to, play against them and see, where we stand.
Absolutely, it will be a great, I guess.
So we are very big fans, because a lot of our fan base comes from India. We're very engaged with them. We want to, encourage Indian cricket clubs to, engage with us. And we'll try to do the same, right? Maybe we'll travel to India and play in some of the Indian infrastructure. It is at least a one dream of mine to kind of, use cricket as a bridge to build closer ties between India and Iceland. On the business side, on the culture side, all that is already happening. There's plenty of people who are working from India in Iceland. They're all professionals in the biotechnology space and other spaces. One of the big companies in Iceland is Alvotech. They're the biggest employers of pharmaceutical and pharmacy manufacturers from India. A lot of the players come from that. So we think that more industries like this can be built in Iceland, and, talent is global. We need to attract talent from everywhere. So that is one thing that we are also, very engaged on. And this is something that I lobby the government to do in Iceland, because Iceland has a dearth of talent, because we are only 350,000 people. And when you need to build specialized industries, you need to be able to attract talent. So Iceland has been very open to relaxing some of the immigration rules for professionals. And, even professionals who come to Iceland for the first 2 years, they get a special tax discount. So, there's lots of incentives for people to move and work in Iceland. So we think with that, we will also build the sport, right? Build the game of cricket.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So I think let's move a little out of our home grounds and visit an away stadium. So, like, how do you feel about the T20s format rise in cricket, and how do you, how necessary it is for the popularization of the game we love? And
Yeah.
also, I would like to know your thoughts about the ongoing T20 World Cup, co-hosted by USA for the first time. And as Iceland Cricket has already predicted on X that South Africa is going
Well,
to lift
I
the
would
trophy,
say
and
that
they are already in the
I'll have to
finals.
I'll have to credit David for that. He's our
Again, David.
he's our pontificator. He is our I don't know. He is the guru when it comes to all these things. I'm just a eager fan. I love to watch cricket. Doesn't matter who's playing.
Okay.
So I think my personal view is that I think T20 cricket has made the sport more global. It has made the sport more accessible to more people, and I think that's great. I think that's what sports should do. What we should try to do is to make it more open so anybody can play and everybody wants to play should be able to play. Iceland, cricket used to be a very exclusive sport. I don't believe that's the world we live in anymore, right? The British way of looking at cricket, the stiff upper lip, all that is gone, right? Cricket is a global sport, and we need to be very open and global about it. So I think T20 brings a very interesting format that resonates with a lot of people who, like, end of the day, it's all about fans, right? Fans have to engage. And I think once fans engage with the T20 format, I think they will engage with the test format as well. Because once they understand the sport, once they understand how difficult this game is, then they will realize and appreciate what happens in a test, right?
Yeah.
And I like the advertising that Sky Sports does. It's called a test for a reason, right? It literally tests the player's temperament, stamina, strategy, skill, pretty much everything, right? So it is a game where you need to be mentally, physically engaged for 5 days. And I don't think any other sport requires something like that, right? But that is a very hard pill for a fan to swallow right up front, right? They would not buy into that view. So I think a T20 is a great gateway. It's a great way to get into the sport. And then what we are seeing now, and I think, I don't know the data, but I think if you look at it, the audience viewership for test matches has gone up by a significant portion after T20.
Yeah.
Right? Like if you go and look at the number of people who buy tickets to go watch test matches. By the way, I actually wanted to go and watch the South Africa-England test match. My club was traveling to England, and we were actually playing a local club there. And one of the days, the free days, we were actually going to go for a test match to watch in Lords. We actually were going to go watch the game. Unfortunately, on that day, the Queen died. So they did not have the match. So I couldn't get to go see the test match. I haven't been in a professional game live for a long time. The last time I watched was in the year 1984 or 83, right after the World Cup when England visited India. And I watched the Chepauk test where, Mike Gatting and Gooch scored double centuries and squashed India, right? This was like a test match that I would like to forget watching. But end of the day, it was great. It was good cricket. And, I was young. I was very excited to be on the stadium watching the game. From then, I haven't been to any international games. And this was one time that I was going to see, but I couldn't see it. And I was trying to buy the tickets to the World Cup game. By the way, I couldn't get the tickets. All my friends based out of New York were all organizing it. They couldn't get tickets. And So my view is that I think the administrator and organizers need to recognize that this sport is only going to grow if we open all these things up. If you keep it behind closed doors for exclusive people and exclusive, people that and all that, that's not going to work, right? It's going to be a terrible waste of a platform. So my view would be, make it easy for people to go watch the game live. Right? It doesn't matter whether it's T20 or one day international or a test match. Make it easy. Keep the cost low, make it easy, make it convenient. We have seen. I invest in startups. We know that convenience always wins. If you make it convenient for somebody to do something, they will do it. But if you make it harder for them to do something, some might, others won't. Right? So it is at least a phenomena that I think ICC and BCCI and I don't know whoever who's in charge of doing these things need to adopt. I think it'll come. I think we also need new blood, right? We're seeing young new administrators taking on roles, and I think they will recognize that the fan engagement is how you grow the sport.
Right.
And it'll happen. I'm pretty sure about it. So I think T20 is great. It's fantastic. It's a good gateway for people to see the game and watch the game, understand the game, and then through that, they will become fans of the Test cricket. I think it will happen because Test cricket is the ultimate test. It is the ultimate test. I cannot emphasize. I don't know if you guys play or not, but I play, and T40 game is my format. I love that format because you need to have the stamina to stand there for a whole day. Whether you're batting or bowling.
Correct.
And even in a good climate environment like Iceland, it's not easy. It's hard.
Yes.
Absolutely.
You guys
requires that.
even wake up at 4 a.m. to watch the India play in Australia, Pujara battling Hazelwood and getting those balls. So Test cricket is actually the poetic. Every ball we watch, even as we have watched, irrespective if it's India's game, because again today Test match cricket is very less. We really don't want to miss any part of it that going forward. So again, whatever happens, but even a single player like even Virat Kohli, they favor Test cricket the most.
Yeah. No, I think when you play the sport, you realize how demanding that format is. And I train to run marathons. I've run 8 marathons, and I can tell you that there is some wiring in the human spirit to do hard things. Why would you run 42 kilometers? Because it is painful, it hurts, it is so hard to do, but hundreds of thousands of people do it every year, right? It is that human will and that spirit to do something beyond yourself, right? Something that you thought you cannot do, but you will yourself to do it. And I think that is what Test cricket is also about, because it shows you that just because you can hit the ball doesn't make you a good Test cricketer. You got to have temperament. You got to have concentration. By the way, in Test cricket, maintaining concentration is the hardest problem, right? Being able to play with the same level of concentration from the first ball to the 500th ball you face. That's why
if you add a little chirping behind the stumps and
all that is
each session brings its own set of questions for the batters and for the bowlers as well. And I remember one quote from Mr. Harsha Bhogle on one of the podcast. He said ki T20 has become that child now who is financially supporting his parents.
Yes. Yes. As I said, I think that's a good way to describe today. But I think we will see when the sport of cricket becomes global, when more nations become Test status ready, and we allow them to play more Test cricket, I think Test cricket will stand on its own feet. The the child does not have to support the parent anymore. And I think these are, it's important, right? I think these are all man-made problems. We have created these problems. These can be solved. I think if we promote Test cricket and if we actually, make that a standard format for fans to engage and watch and play, I think we will see that it will be self-sufficient as well. We just haven't done a good job of promoting it. What we need to do is to do that promotion. And I think, cricket lovers who basically understand the sport, played the sport, or want to play the sport, or become fans of the sport, will want to participate in that too. I mean, for a 5-day match, we don't expect one person to be there for all 5 days, right?
Mhm.
Right. That's the other thing a lot of people get wrong. They think that you have to have audience all through the day. No, you just need the fans to be engaged, right? So you can change how you do the ticketing, right? Rather than sell for a whole day, you can sell for an hour, right?
Yeah.
Why don't they do that? Why don't you do that, right? You just sell for a session, right? Why don't you sell for a session and make the sessions different pricing? And people might actually say, you know what, I want to watch the morning session on a Friday. Maybe I want to watch the evening session on a Saturday. And I buy tickets differently, right? Why is that difficult to do? Today, with digital formats, it's so easy to do. We don't even have to sell session. We can sell every 15-minute slots, right? You can buy 30-minute slots.
Absolutely, yeah.
Right?
That's
So
a
why
really good idea,
why isn't ICC doing that? Right? So because they're not thinking from the fans' point of view.
But,
Right?
yeah.
True.
It's
And as
easy
you
to
said,
just
they
sell
need
one ticket
new
and not worry about it, right? But if you change the pricing, if you change how it's done, suddenly you have a new way of looking at, Test cricket. I mean, Airbnb did not beat hotels because they did something greatly innovative. They had a different business model. That's it. And I think Test cricket needs to have a different business model. If it does, I think it'll stand on its own feet. I think we're trying to fit an old business model into this thing. I think that's not the right way to do it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Wow.
So, Bala, now, amazing insights we've had. We just want, to end this podcast now with a fun section. Okay, so this is a super
Sure.
over. We'll be just asking a few. This is kind of a rapid fire. I'll be just asking
Okay.
you few questions, and you just give me quick answers. Okay, and
Okay.
let's go ahead with this. So, which is your favorite cricket ground? Like, of all the venues that you have maybe played in or watched the cricket at, which is your favorite cricket ground?
My favorite cricket ground is in Iceland called Grota. We play here. We have the best view. We get to see the glacier and the volcano and mountains while we play cricket.
Wow.
Amazing. Next, we have, so I think we already know the answer to this, but still, tests, ODIs, or T20s?
Test all the way.
Yes.
All the way. Great. Okay. Favorite team from Indian Premier League?
Favorite team from the Indian family?
Indian Premier League. Yeah.
Oh, IPL. Chennai Super Kings.
Chennai Super Kings. Great. And Madhukar is very happy with that. And okay, next we have is two current players that, if they were available to play for Iceland, I'm sure Iceland is a great team of its own, surely, but two current players in world cricket that if they were available to play for Iceland, you'd love to have them.
Bumrah, of course, without even thinking, and the other player would definitely be Kohli.
Kohli. Great. Absolutely amazing. That would be like our choices too, for sure. Lucky we have them. And okay, so this last round is just, I'll be asking you this or that. This is a batting specific edition. You have to just pick one name. So Joe Root or Steve Smith?
Joe Root.
Joe Root or Rohit Sharma?
Rohit Sharma.
Rohit Sharma or David Warner?
Rohit Sharma.
Rohit Sharma or Babar Azam?
Rohit Sharma.
Rohit Sharma or Virat Kohli?
That's a hard one. I think if you're just talking about batting, I would say Virat Kohli.
Virat Kohli, okay. Virat Kohli or Sachin Tendulkar?
Oh man, that's Sachin. No, not even a fair comparison. Again, I think it is amazing that we are comparing Virat to Sachin, but I think what Sachin has done for Indian cricket, I don't think anybody can, do that. And not to take anything away from what Virat stands for, but I think Sachin is standing on its own pedestal. There's nobody you can compare him to.
You bowled to him,
So
so
the last
also
one,
that.
so the last one, since like we discussed the '83 World Cup also, so we have an icon: Sachin Tendulkar or Sir Vivian Richards.
Sachin.
Yeah.
Oh.
We go Sachin, yeah, absolutely.
By the way,
Yeah.
I think Vivian Richards is an amazing cricketer. No doubts. I
Yeah.
don't think he's.
Absolutely.
I think if he had been around if he played in T20s, I think he would have shown what can be done with the bat. I think he was an amazing cricketer.
Amazing.
Just
Especially with the bats of with the heavy bats of these era, the thick bats, and Sir Vivian Richards.
No,
Yeah,
but I think people don't
Nothing
realize. I mean, at that when Vivian Richards and Kapil Dev were playing, nobody was keeping track of strike rates and things like that, right?
yeah,
But
actually, yes. Yeah.
today, we talk about the strike rates of 140, 150. They were doing that when nobody was keeping track of that, right?
Absolutely, yeah. Actually,
Right.
yes.
So they were way ahead of their time for what talent they were. So you just gotta admire those people for what they did to the sport. I think it was fantastic to have them. They were fantastic champions. They were true role models. They carried themselves well on the field, off the field, and I think the spirit of cricket was personified by these people, and I think that's fantastic, right? You can show that cricket. My dad always used to remind me that cricket is a gentleman's game. Like you gotta put your emotions aside, and you gotta truly play the game for what it is. And I still believe that holds true. Yes, obviously, there's a lot at stake in today's games, but it's always amazing when somebody plays with that humility and that respect for the game, and even in this era. And I think Rohit Sharma is probably one of those guys who kind of personifies that. And to a large extent, maybe even Virat. But that being said, I think there are players like Pat Cummins. I think he does that too.
Yeah.
I mean, in English cricket, I think there's plenty of examples. Moeen Ali comes to mind. Even Josh Butler comes to mind. Yeah. So I think we have tremendous role models even today, and I think the sport of cricket is lucky to have these people who actually have stood up and done the things that they do, and they do it day in, day out. Likewise, it is very lucrative to be a cricketer, right? It's great because the sport has garnered tremendous fan base. But in spite of all that, playing it with the same spirit is important.
Absolutely. The great ambassadors of the game, and every sport needs it. And so I mean, we would like to now end here. And Bala, thank you so much for your time, and it was great chatting about Iceland cricket in general, knowing about everything. And we for sure are going to learn more about Iceland cricket, watch the games whenever we can, whenever it's available for us. And I mean, this was not just a great conversation we had, but I believe we all learned so much from this, and from your experience, and from your perspective. Starting running a board from the scratch. This was amazing.
Amazing.
Thank you so much.
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you for your interest, and as I said, thank you for having me. As I said, I don't get to talk about cricket in any forum in any detail. So thanks for giving me that platform. And maybe me and David have talked about it. Maybe we should start doing our own podcast and start talking about all the things that we by the way, David and I, we have riffraffs and we talk about all the games, and we are truly fans of the sport. We don't care who's playing. We are very, obviously we have our favorite teams, no doubts. But we enjoy the spirit of the sport. We enjoy the game because there's a lot of tactics involved. We talk about that, and it's fun to do that. And thanks for doing, and thanks for hosting the show. I think it's I can see that there are many should I say kindred hearts like ours. So we're always happy to collaborate with those and share our views.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
And
our
the
pleasure
way
completely.
the members there are volunteering to build the Iceland cricket and the stories you have told, oh my God, like for us, that is awe-inspiring. We have been like craving to hear such stories. We have been like those persons because we also come from MP, which has not been very good contribution to Indian cricket. So we did not had grounds like in where we were in tier 3 cities. So we really understand those struggles of playing cricket and still be dedicated, even if knowing that you are not playing in that team, and still be a part of that larger fan base.
Sure. Wonderful.
And even
Nice meeting you all.
Yes.
Yeah.
Anything, if you even need help with, you said you want to start a podcast with David, we would be happy to work around that. We even, in 2020, while it was COVID, we worked with a US-based influencer called Rosni Chasmawala. She is now hired by Star Sports for the World Cup. So she is, interviewing Virat Kohli and everybody. So we worked with her also. We launched her podcast and a lot of things happened. So very open to collaborate on anything.
Yeah.
Excellent. Good to know that. It's good to know that. As I said, I just need to carve out time other than the 24 hours I have in a day, because I do. My wife continues to remind me that I should say no to things, but I have too many things I work on. But as they say, if the time is right, things will happen.
Absolutely.
Okay. So with that, thank you, Bala. Thank you for just joining with us, and thank you guys. And for our audience, I hope you love this. You get to know so much about Iceland cricket. Those who are following Iceland cricket on Twitter, well, you have amazing content already in your feed. Those who are not, we will post the links in the description. We will tag Iceland Cricket's social media channels. We will tag Bala. You just go and follow Iceland Cricket, and for sure follow on Twitter. You will love it.
Yes.
Thank you guys. Nice meeting you, and good luck.
We'd love to get you back and talk more about cricket.
Yes, we'll do it. We'll do it again. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so
very
much.
much.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.